Now, using Dreamweaver together with WordPress is not something I find myself doing all the time, but every once in a while when I have, kind of a complicated post, maybe the post is going to have a table with some data in it, or it's going to involve some kind of an intricate layout or, something bizarre like this. Yeah, I could hand code it, but, it's just easier to get Dreamweaver to do it. So anyway, here's what I'm going to do. I am exactly where you and I left off from the previous exercise. So I'm in the process of creating this new post, Flash's minimum requirements. I went and deleted all of that stuff that you and I had just typed in there. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and hide Firefox, or you can minimize Firefox, get them out of the way there. And what I'm going to do here is head into my sample files on the desktop. And inside your sample files, you will notice a file called htmlpost.html. So what I'm going to do is I will right-click on this fella, open with, and I'm going to choose Adobe Dreamweaver CS4, which is conveniently running in the background for me, by the way. All right, so I'm running Dreamweaver CS4 here, obviously. If you're running a previous version of Dreamweaver, hopefully no worries here. This is what we have. So I have just a little bit of text at the top here. So you're all revved up to learn Flash, blah, 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 blah. And then here I have, I think it's a heading 5 that I put in there just for the heck of it. And then a table that kind of runs through all of the minimum requirements for both the Windows and Mac operating systems. So the idea here is I want to get all of this content over into WordPress, into my new post, right? That's the idea here. So here's what I'm going to do. Oh, you know what? Before we get into that, I want to show you one other quick thing. This content here, does your computer have the fortitude to run the sucker? Does it have the fortitude to run Flash? Well, this formatting here, I thought I would throw in this little curveball here. This is CSS, the formatting here. And yeah, it's really simple formatting. It's controlling the font and the color and the size, real simple. But I did want to introduce some CSS formatting. Everything else, there's no formatting beyond this content here. And the reason why I wanted to do this is I wanted to mention that if you do want to use CSS in your posts that you're pulling out of Dreamweaver and dumping into WordPress, you definitely can. However, it does get a little bit more involved because by default, what Dreamweaver will do is create for you what's referred to as either an internal style sheet or an external style sheet. If you know what I'm talking about, awesome. If you have no freaking clue what Jeff is talking about, don't worry about it so much. Essentially what it means is where the style is stored, either in the head area of the current page or in an external .css file, right? Okay, so where it gets tricky is if I'm setting up a Dreamweaver post and that I want to use in WordPress and I've used external styles, well, the external styles then have to reside inside the theme's external style sheet. Do you follow what I mean? So as you can guess, it gets a little bit complicated, right? It is possible, but it's tricky. Not, like sending a rocket to Mars or anything, not that complicated, but it's pretty involved. I mean, you've got to make sure everything hooks up properly. So what I did here, sorry for my babbling, but what I did here is I created what's referred to as an inline style, which is very much shunned by many web designer, but every once in a while they're needed. So let me show you the code behind this here. I'm just going to click on split and see if I can get my screen happening here. There we go. And you can see there's my internal, or I'm sorry, my inline style right there. Span style equals font-family to Homa, color, and then the font hyphen size, which is 12 pixels, right? And then there's the content, and then there's where the span ends right there. So that's what I did, and I realize that I am babbling to some degree, but this is kind of important if you have a lot of CSS formatting in your posts. You could go and add your rules to your external style sheet that's driving your theme. Again, it's going to be a little bit tricky, and you're going to have all these extra styles that are going to be a part of your external style sheet that are driving your theme that might only be needed for one post. So if they're only needed for one post, in other words, the styles aren't going to get used over and over and over again, then you might want to consider inline styles. And there is a way, I'm not 100% sure how to do it, but anyway, there is a way to convert inline styles to regular rules that would either reside internally or externally. I'm not 100% sure how to do it, and I think there might be a way to do the opposite, to take a normal rule and convert it to an inline rule. But anyway, I'm babbling. Let's get into this here. If you want to, you know what? If you want to know more about this, if you're kind of hung up on this, you know what I'm going to say? Because I don't want to babble on about it, but a few of you might be like, yeah, tell us more about that. You know, fire me an email, GEOFF, jeff@10tonbooks.com. How does that sound? Fire me an email, and I'll babble about it to you in an email. How's that? Okay, now, how to get this really plain, boring content into WordPress. Well, what I'm going to do is it's all about code, right? So hold on to your lunch and click on the code view, and now we're looking at code, right? Now, here's the trick. If you know a little bit about HTML, you know that we don't want the head content or the body tag or any of that junk. Essentially, what we want is the stuff that sits inside the body. So in other words, exactly what I've selected here is exactly what we want. So in other words, from the opening paragraph tag to the closing table tag. Is that cool? Does that make sense? Okay, awesome. Select all that stuff, no more, no less, copy it. Command-C, Control-C on the Windows side, flip back over to your new post, which has been waiting patiently for us in the wings. Make sure you're on the HTML tab, there on the top right, and let her rip. Paste, Command-V or Control-V. Okay, I think we're good here. There's all of our code from Dreamweaver, right? Pretty awesome stuff. Click on Publish. Let's just publish the guy. Let's not bother saving drafts or anything like that. Just publish them. Flip over to your blog, which I think you should still have open, inside a browser tab. I hope you still have that guy open. Refresh, Command-R or Control-R. Here we go. Flashes, minimum requirements. Okay, so there's the paragraph. There's the inline formatting coming through. Awesome. There's the H5, I believe it is. And then there's the table inside the post as well. And you know what's nice about the theme here is when I hover over top of the table items, they sort of give us that rollover effect. Very, very awesome. All right, so we're looking cool here. Now, you know, I am going to make a minor change here. But first of all, the process worked going from Dreamweaver over into our post in WordPress, which is killer. But I do want to make some changes back in our post. So I'm going to fly back over to the back end, the admin area of our blog here. And, you know, all I'm going to do is a very simple change. Look for table width equals, and you should see 300 there. Do you see that in there? And I'm going to change that to 100%. Make sure you put the percent sign at the end there. Let's update this guy. Wait for it there. Back over. Refresh. There. That looks a lot nicer. Awesome stuff. That looks so cool. That's awesome. I love it. I think it's totally awesome. Totally rad. Okay, so the process of getting content over from Dreamweaver into WordPress, I hope makes sense. And don't forget that even though you pasted the content over from Dreamweaver, you can always come into the HTML editor here, make changes, change up whatever you want here. You'll notice, for example, that I have column widths inside our table. You can mess around with those, all the rest of it. Go nuts, go crazy. It's cool stuff.